Hello everyone, my name is Godlove and welcome to our series of YouTube tutorials with G-Edu Network. So today we're going to start a new topic on our cell cytology, and by starting we're going to analyze the structure of prokaryotic cell. We're going to also to see the different shape that our prokaryotic cell can take, and then lastly we will see the common difference between our prokaryote and the eukaryote. So by starting, let's analyze this structure of our prokaryotic cell. But before we go and see this structure, let's start by this statement actually. The common important difference between our prokaryotes and the eukaryotes is that prokaryotes, they do not have nucleus. They do not have this membrane bound organelle which stores genetic information. In fact, all prokaryotes, they do not have membrane bound organelles, and this include mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, and so forth. So that's actually our introduction on our prokaryotic cell. So let's see the structure of our prokaryotic cell. Let's see different parts of our prokaryotic cell and their function. So let's see these differences. So this is actually the structure of our prokaryotic cell, and by starting, let's start with outermost layer labeled by number 1 here. So this structure labeled by number 1 is our cell wall, and the main function of our cell wall is actually to protect our cell from outer environment. So this is a structure known as which is labeled here by number 1. So just below our cell wall, we have this another structure here labeled by number 2, known as our cell membrane. And the main function of our cell membrane is actually it helps in our cell communication and cell signaling. Our cell membrane also play a very important role in cell transportation. So different materials are transported into the cell and out of the cell through our cell membrane. Our cell membrane also play a very important role as it acts as attachment point for different molecules in our cell. So that's the structure labeled by number 2, known as our cell membrane. So let's move to this structure number 3 here. As we said, our prokaryotic cell, they do not have nucleus, and instead they have this structure labeled by number 3, known as nucleoid. So nucleoid, this is a structure which do not have membrane actually, and inside our nucleoid is where we store our genetic information in our prokaryotic cell. So this is a structure labeled by our number 3, known as nucleoid, and within nucleoid is where we actually store genetic information inside our prokaryotic cell. So if we see our inside this nucleoid, we have this large DNA, and we also have this small circular DNA, let's see actually this small DNA here, which is our main concern here. So unlike this large DNA, this small DNA here labeled by number 4 is known as plasmid. And the plasmid actually, unlike this large DNA, this plasmid is capable of replicating itself. So this is a structure labeled by number 4 here. So plasmid is capable of replicating itself, and the plasmid contains several important genes. And these genes, which are contained inside our plasmid, they play a very important role in drug resistance. So our plasmid contains this type of genes, and this gene play a very important role in drug resistance. In fact, our plasmid can replicate, and it can be passed down into toward other cells. So that's a structure labeled by number 4 here. So let's see another structure which is labeled by number 5, and these are hair-like projection, as we can see here, and these are known as our pili. And the pili play a very important role in connecting 2 or more prokaryotic cells. So we said earlier that our plasmid is capable of replicating itself, and our plasmid contains several important genes, and these genes help in resistance to drug. So when this plasmid have to be transported now to other cells, these 2 cells have to be connected to each other, and 2 or more prokaryotic cells are actually connected to each other via this hair-like projection known as our pili. So pili connect to our 2 prokaryotic cells so that our plasmid can be passed down now to other cells, and those other cells which do not have resistance to drug can now gain resistance to drug as our plasmid is replicated and transported toward other cell. So this is a structure known as our, which is labeled here by number 5, known as our pili. So let's move to our another structure here labeled by number 6, and this is ribosomes. And ribosome is also present in eukaryotic cells. And unlike ribosome, which is present in our eukaryotic cell, this ribosome, which is present inside our prokaryotic cell, is made up of different subunits, as we will see in just a moment when we discuss the difference between our prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. But the main function of our ribosome is the synthesis of our protein. So within this ribosome here, labeled by number 6, is where protein synthesis actually takes place. So this is a structure here labeled by number 6. Another structure is this structure here labeled by number 7, and this is known as flagella. And flagella, it helps in movement of our prokaryotic cell. So our prokaryotic cell is capable of moving from one place to another through this structure here known as the flagella. So this is actually the structure of our prokaryotic cell. So we are done with our first part of today's lecture. Let's see also different shapes that our prokaryotic cell can take. So we said earlier, our prokaryotic cell can take different shapes. And before we see the shapes, let's see the example of our prokaryotic cell as seen here on top of our paper. So prokaryotic cell, this include our bacteria and archaea. And archaea, these are actually a special group of organisms which are capable of living in a very hostile environment. So these are archaea actually. As we know bacteria, but archaea, these are organisms which are capable of living in a very hostile environment. And this includes very low or very high pH or very high temperature. These are a group here of organisms known as our archaea. So our prokaryotic cell can take different shapes, and the first, it can take our circular shape, and this is known as our cocci. So cocci, these are actually our circular shapes which our prokaryotic cell can take. Our prokaryotic cell can also take this shape here of our bacilli. And lastly, our prokaryotic cell can take the spiral shapes, known as our helical shape. So these are different shapes that our prokaryotic cell can take. So lastly, let's see the difference. Let's see the common difference between our prokaryotic cell and our eukaryotic cell. As we said earlier at the very beginning, when we give our introduction to our prokaryotic cell, we said our prokaryotic, this organism which are called prokaryotes, they do not have nucleus. So they do not have this membrane bound organelle which store genetic information. So the first difference is that our prokaryotes, they do not have nucleus, while our eukaryotes, they have our nucleus. Nucleus is present in eukaryotes. So prokaryotes, as we said earlier, they do not have this membrane bound organelle, while our eukaryotes, they have this membrane bound organelle. Another difference is actually our prokaryotes. Example of our prokaryotes are bacteria and archaea, and example of our eukaryotes are animals, plants, fungi, and etc. Also, another difference is that all prokaryotes, they have cell wall, while in eukaryotes, not all eukaryotes have cell wall. For example, plant cell, they have cell wall, while we human, we do not have cell wall. So not all eukaryotes actually have cell wall. And another difference also is ribosome. So I said earlier, a ribosome is present in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes, but the subunit which made ribosome in prokaryote is different from that of eukaryote. So our prokaryote is made up with 30 subunits and 50 subunits to make our ribosomes, while our eukaryotes are made up of 40 and 60 subunits, which are actually subunits which are actually make our ribosomes. And lastly, plasmid is common in prokaryotes. So in almost all prokaryotes, they have this structure known as plasmid, which offer resistance to drug to our prokaryotic cell, while our plasmid is actually very rare into our eukaryote. So these are common difference between our prokaryotic cell and our eukaryotic cell. So that's all for today's lecture. If you like today's lecture, please be sure to subscribe, share with your friends as we continue with the different several lectures. So let's meet into next tutorials where we are going to start our new topic on our eukaryotic cell. We are going to see the details of our eukaryotic cell. So subscribe and share with your friend, please, if you don't want to miss any of these lectures on our cytology. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching.